this video, we're going to start the basic CRUD functionality: create, read, update, and delete. Continuing from the last couple of lectures, we have the same file setup. I have not changed that at all. And in the component folder, we have several components. In this video, I will show you how to create a basic list. As you see in my example, I have a basic list being pulled in. The list has two items, bread and cheese. It also has prices listed as well. We will need to create this using something called state. We will create all the functionality on the app.js page. In order to create a list, we need to go ahead and create a JSON object. Here, I went ahead and created a JSON object called glist. This would be for my grocery list. Here, I have two objects. One that contains something called gname and gprice. If I had more, I can just continue down with commas. I can add as many objects to the list as I choose. Here is the code from the data binding from before. I'm going to give you a quick glance at the actual return statement. We'll go back up to the functionality in just a moment. On my form component, you can see I have not added any other information. I did add a variable name here, which I will show you in just a moment. In order to get this list to display on the page, I will have to create an array and loop through that array. But first, we will need to create the actual list. The list should be a separate component. You can see here in my components folder, I added a folder called list item. In the folder itself, I created two new files, one for the JS and one for the CSS. This list item will also be a dummy component, meaning I will not need state in order to view this. It will just be a viewable list. Here I created a variable called list items, and I'm passing through props again so that I can use these in the parent component. With React, you're always required to use keys. If you do not have a key, the console log will throw a warning and tell you that a key is required. With React, make sure you always use keys. I do want my list to display in a list item, so I will use an li tag. I will pass through a key. The key will say props.id. I can style it any way that I choose using the modules. And I have two spans, one for the name and one for the price. This will allow me to get the list from the parent element and place it within the span tags. I need to export my variable, and then any styling can go below. It can also go on the CSS if you choose. In order to get the list to display, I will need to create a loop. I will need to do that on the parent component. First, I will need to import the component piece. So import list item from components list item. In the render is where I would want to loop through my array. In the render, just for your purposes, I have some comments here of the syntax using the map function. In React, here on out, you should be using the map to map through any array objects. What I will do is create a variable called myList. Here in the myList, I will need to grab the state of glist. So this is saying that I'm grabbing the glist array. I'm going to use the map method to map through the array. In the parameters, I have element and I. I is for the index so that we can loop through and grab the correct item based off of the key value. Next, we will need to do a return. We will need to return the list item component with the key and the value. This value is coming through using this val right here, just so you know how they link up. Now that you have this variable created, we need to place it on the page. We scroll below. I will go ahead and use the curly braces in the name of my list to have the my list injected onto the page. If you've done everything correctly, you should now see bread and cheese listed on your application.